relative to work that may be done for utilities in the, to upgrade and repair utilities in the future. But that's really what I'm looking for tonight, is to have authorization to accept and record this deed. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from committee members? Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Attorney Khan. Don, does that include the parcel that abuts Bartholomew Street, also the pumping station right
yes,
out front?
Yes, the pumping station and the water tower parcel would be conveyed to the city.
Okay, and then it becomes part of our water infrastructure.
Yes.
Through the city. So with that said, I am greatly in favor of receiving this. I think it's a long time coming. I know that, you know, the Solominas have been in control of that parcel in that pump station for almost a decade now. So I think they've completed their end of the bargain, and it's time that we add this to our water structures. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Walton? Excuse me, any other members of the committee would like to ask any questions at this time? Thank you, Councilor Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak, as I'm not on this committee, but through you to Don Kahn. I was just curious, does this have any impact on the water tower itself? I know they have a number of agreements with cell phone arrays and things like that. Could you maybe speak to any impact that might have as well?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. Pursuant to the agreements between the developer and the city, the developer has the rights to continue to use the cell towers.
Would that also allow for further expansion, or just to maintain the current cell towers that they have affixed to the structure currently?
I believe it's the current cell towers, and you know, if and when those need to be replaced, I think they'd have the right to replace them.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying. No further questions.
Thank you, Councilor Walton. Any other questions at this time? Seeing none, I guess I think the best would be to, I'd like to see if anyone would entertain a motion for the city to accept and receive the deed from Michael D. Solomini, trustee of MJ-2 Realty Trust, for the water tower parcel at the Boulderwood.
So moved.
You've heard the motion from Councilor Turco. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Solicitor Dunn. The next item on the agenda is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism. I'd like to welcome His Honor Mayor Betancourt this evening. Mayor Betancourt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to you. Good evening to all of you councilors. Hope everybody's doing well. Here today to seek your support in an endorsement of a working definition, of a new working definition of anti-Semitism. Just to give you a little bit of background, a few months ago I was approached by Deb Colton. She is the executive director of the Lapin Foundation. The Lapin Foundation is based out of Salem. They really cover Merrimack Valley, Essex County, greater Boston area. Their mission is to enhance Jewish identity across generations, and a big part of that is Holocaust commemoration and Holocaust education. They were moving forward, and she explained to me a new venture that they wanted to do to create a virtual summit. It's called 2 Steps Forward Against Anti-Semitism, and really targeting Massachusetts mayors, town officials, town administrators, really to speak about the Holocaust and to have some discussions on anti-Semitism and the effect, the continued effect that it has in our society. I think all of you, like I, have been very upset by incidents that we've seen locally across our region, across our state, across our country, anti-Semitic incidents that have been truly disturbing and troubling. Way too often and way too common are they taking place. So it's an opportunity to educate people and to try to bring people together to have these important discussions. So I signed on to this effort very early, wanted to be a part of it, and we're having the Anti-Semitism Summit. It's a virtual summit on Monday afternoon. Part of that, there were really two goals for this summit. The first one, and I'm just going to read it just to make sure that I'm saying it appropriately. The first goal is to adopt and endorse the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, the IHRA, non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism. I did provide that to you in the packet that you received. And the second is to commemorate International Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27th, annually, so that lessons of the Holocaust, including the dangers of anti-Semitism and hate, are not forgotten. We've been doing that now for a couple of years. We've been commemorating International Holocaust Day on January 27th. We haven't really had a public forum because of COVID. We would like to do that moving forward. But the last 2 years we've done it have been small ceremonies in which I've presented a certificate to local temples. And we were one of the first, if not the first city to do that. And I'm hoping that we would be one of the very first cities or towns to move forward with endorsing this new working definition of anti-Semitism. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions. If there's some interest or in terms of further background on this, happy to provide it. But really, this is nothing that, as it says, it's non-legal, it's not legally binding. To me, this is more of a symbolic gesture of support for the Jewish community in Peabody, in our region, and across the state. And I think it's an excellent opportunity for Peabody to be leaders. You may recall back in 2019, we had a very unfortunate incident in which Rabbi Schusterman received some anti-Semitic insults while walking down the street in West Peabody. Very troubling to me, very troubling to all of us. We immediately had a rally, a peace rally in front of City Hall. Many of you were there. And it was really a great statement from our community that condemning this type of action, condemning this type of behavior, and really standing firm with Rabbi Schusterman, the large number of temples we have in our community, the large number of people that are Jewish in our community. And it really sent a powerful message, I believe, from our city that we do not tolerate this type of behavior. And I think that's one of the reasons that the Lapin Foundation reached out to me as the mayor of the city and to take a leadership role in this upcoming summit. But really, to me, this is a symbolic gesture of support and hopeful that we can be one of the first cities again to adopt it. Governor Baker, his administration has already endorsed this. I believe that's in your packet. They have already endorsed this working definition. He took a real leadership role. And I'll be looking to do the same for the city of Peabody moving forward. Again, Mr. Chairman, happy to answer any questions or give further information.
Thank you, Mayor Betancourt. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Mayor, I was reading this last week when we got this in the packet on Friday, and I still can't believe that we're talking about this like this. It's amazing to me. And I think our kids are a little bit different. They see things through a different light. I think each generation, anti-Semitism and homophobia and racism seems to dissipate. So, you know, kind of makes me happy. But it's sad that it still exists. So thank you for being at the forefront with this. But the one thing I wanted to point out to the council, my youngest takes a class at Peabody High School called Holocaust and Genocide, and she absolutely loved it, and I think that it's great that the city of Peabody and the school department still offers that. It's amazing how we forget, and, you know, same as I said, the generations seem to dilute the anti-Semitism and the racism. They also lose their history a little bit, so it's great that Peabody High keeps this at the forefront and lets those kids know. I remember the first time Isabella came home and said, "Dad, you know, they killed 6 million Jewish people." I said, "Yeah." I said, "You know, it's sad that you had to learn that in school, but I'm glad you learned that at school." So, again, thank you very much, and I hope you present this to the school committee also, because I think that this would be something good to add to that Holocaust and Genocide class as a definition, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor Betancourt.
Thank you, Council. Great comments. I wanted to add to that because that class, Holocaust and Genocide Studies. We actually have a meeting on Monday following the summit. It's a meeting that the school committee is running, Mr. Hockman, Mr. Amico. They are bringing Deb Colton from the Lapin Foundation. There will be, I anticipate, a number of rabbis, local rabbis from the city of Peabody, but also locally that will be at that meeting. And the discussion is including Holocaust and Genocide Studies, or a portion of the history class in the middle school as well. So we're looking to add that. We're talking about maybe a 6-week time frame where that is a part of the curriculum in the middle school also. So we're going to be having that discussion on Monday evening at 5 p.m. But important lessons, and I think you hit it. You explained it very well as to why that's important. It's just very troubling that this is we still talk about this. It's amazing. And I'll keep everybody updated on that in terms of progress, but we're doing some work in terms of curriculum, and one of the topics Monday night is this very topic.
Thank you, Mayor Betancourt. Any other community members or council members want to? Councilor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, as long as I've been on the council, you've extended the invitation to the Holocaust Remembrance through Salem State College, and we've hosted it at the Higgins Middle School. And there's nothing more powerful than to see survivors and also families of survivors participate in that. And I just want to let you know that we feel that it's so important to keep that going. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Council President Melville?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, I think this was a fantastic example of what's required to deal with this issue. I was fortunate enough in high school to go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and then travel to Europe to see the concentration camps with local veterans and actually some members from Peabody that had actually been to that camp. And it was a moving experience, and until you actually go through and get educated on that, it really hits home. But more on the anti-Semitism part of it, one of the key lessons that I got out of that and that is taught is how important, as much as it's great for national leaders to speak out against anti-Semitism and racism, it's very important for local leaders. Because that's where some of the most violent actions and during some of these terrible times that happen in Europe and in this country occur. And so your leadership, Mayor, and this council and other elected officials, and the elected officials that came before that gave me that opportunity to allow me to fully understand this. I think this is fantastic, and this is the stuff we have to pass on, not just from us, but to the next generation of elected officials as well. So thank you very much. It's great.
Thank you, President Melville. Any other council members like to comment at this time? Seeing no one, Mayor Betancourt, I'd also echo the comments of my fellow councilors talking about bringing this forward, and also your commitment to use the phrase that was in the memo, combating anti-Semitism and all forms of hate wherever it is found. So I thank you. I think at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion that the Peabody City Council endorses the updated definition of anti-Semitism that was first adopted by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance.
Moved.
Thank you, Councilor Rosendahl. You've heard the motion from Councilor Rosendahl. On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Betancourt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could just add one thing before I step back. The Anti-Semitism Virtual Summit is this Monday, the 28th, at 1 p.m. It is an hour-long program. I have the link if anybody has the opportunity and would like to join the meeting. I'll be happy to provide that to you. We have quite a lineup of speakers. Gentlemen from the Anti-Defamation League of New England. We have a Holocaust survivor. We have Josh Kraft from the New England Patriots Kraft Family Philanthropies. Members from the representatives of the Boston's new Holocaust Museum, and a number of other speakers. So if anybody is interested, I'm happy to provide that link. We have almost 200 people now that have joined from cities and towns across the state, and I think it's going to be a pretty spectacular event that's really going to shed light and open some more discussion points to our community. So thank you for the support. I think this is going to be received very well, and I believe show that we as a city in Peabody are really committed to supporting our Jewish community, and I thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Betancourt. Thank you all for your participation. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. You've heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. We are now adjourned.
Test. Guys are almost ready to go. Oh, it starts at 7. Okay, yeah.
like to call to order this meeting of the Peabody City Council Finance Committee. Present for the committee are Councilors Gamache, Gould, Manning Martin, Turco, and myself, Councilor McGinn, as chair. All other councilors are present. Thank you for attending. We have several items on the agenda tonight. First item on the agenda, statement of interest, South Memorial Elementary School. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening again. Hope everybody's doing well. It's that time of the year again to bring forward some requests for approval on submissions of statement of interests. The first one that I wanted to present today is for the South School. I think everybody knows the South Memorial School. It's actually is the oldest school in the city right now, a couple of years older than the Center School, which still always surprises me. But the South School has excellent bones. It's a building that has held up well over the years, and some great things happen in that building, as all of you know. I'm a proud graduate of the South School. Tom Gould, you are? Tom Gould? Excellent. So, wanted to bring that forward today. It's for a new roof. The MSBA over the last couple of years has been kind of changing the time frames as to when you can submit for new roof under the accelerated repair program. They've changed it from 25 years old to 27 to 30, but we believe this year we do qualify for a new roof at the South Elementary School. You may recall there are two different ways to file. The first is under the accelerated repair program, which is for roofs, windows, boilers, projects of that nature. Then the second is the core program, which will be the other two submissions that I'll be speaking to shortly on. Those are for major renovations, including a potential new school. This is under accelerated repair. This recommendation comes from Jim Hafey and his review of the work. We've been very fortunate. Right now we have two projects moving forward with the MSBA. The first one is, of course, the Welch School, which I'm very happy will be starting the last day of school, or the day after the children graduate this June. That work will begin. The other project that's going to be starting also this summer is the West Memorial School roof. Similar project to here. That one qualified, whereas the South didn't before, but now we believe the South does qualify. So submitting that to you today, happy to answer any questions, but this is just an attempt, as we have in the past, to try to extend the life cycle of some of our elementary schools, and we believe the South has served us well and will continue to serve us well, but time has come for a new roof in that building. We're expecting, in terms of MSBA reimbursements, about 60% reimbursement. The number won't be determined until we move along in the process, but based on the Welch and the West and in the past, we're looking in that 60% range. We would be submitting this immediately. The due date is tomorrow. I appreciate Councilor McGinn and all of you receiving the late communication at the last meeting and setting it up for today. We didn't actually even receive word on last year's submissions until last month. So they are behind the MSBA in a lot of their work and responding, but it was a quick turnaround. So with a hopeful approval tonight, we would be submitting tomorrow in order to get on the list for the MSBA. So happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Questions from the committee? Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a co-motion with Councilor McGinn.
Could you hold that just for a moment, Councilor Turco? Thank you. Were there any questions from Councilor Wellen?
Thank you, Chair McGinn. Through you to Mr. Mayor, I'm not on this committee, so thank you for the opportunity to speak, but I was curious. I know last year when we looked at the West School, we had to have a study done to determine that we needed the roof, even though we all kind of understood that it was needed. I'm just curious if that's still the process for the other roofs that we're looking at this year. Thank you.
Yes, we've done our own internal study on this, and that's when Mr. Hafey and his staff recommended this. Prior to getting the MSBA approval, they would have to actually come in and do a study themselves to make sure that the work is necessary. So yeah, that would be a step before we would move forward with hiring a contractor before the work begins.
Thanks for clarifying. Appreciate it.
Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, I'd like to also acknowledge and thank school committee members Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn and John Swanson for being here this evening. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Co-motion with Councilor McGinn as the Soul School services both students and children from Ward 1 and Ward 2. Motion to approve and submit the statement of interest to the MSBA regarding the South Elementary School, having convened in an open meeting on March 24th, 2022 for the closing date, prior to the closing date, the City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the Statement of Interest SOI form dated March 25th, 2022 for the South Elementary School located at 16 Maple Street Extension, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application must be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is the accelerated program for the repair and/or replacement of roofs. The specific objective of the statement of interest is to partner with the MSBA for the replacement of the failing roof on the entire facility of the South Elementary School as articulated in the South Elementary School SOI. And for the City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance of this approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the City, Town, Regional School District to file an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. And this was a unanimous vote by the school committee also. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. You heard the motion from Councilor Turco. On the motion? Seeing none, roll call.
I'm very grateful to have Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn here. She is the guru of the MSBA, and she's been a tremendous asset in terms of these filings, which I'll get to when we get to the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. She does.
You tell the superintendent to push the button. That's how it works. And he submits the paper.
Okay.
Roll call.
Push the button, huh?
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda are actually two statements of interest, one for the Center Elementary School and one for the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bringing forward today two statement of interest requests to submit to the MSBA. These are not new to you. They've been presented now this will be our fourth year we'd be moving forward with this submission to the MSBA. I really thought we had an opportunity this year to have one of these projects approved. Unfortunately, we were notified in February that we were not going to be invited into the program for either the Center School or Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. Overall, I feel like our buildings are in pretty decent shape, save for the Center School and for Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. I think all of you know the condition, you know the history. I'm certainly willing to talk about that in more detail. But certainly I think all of you are very aware that those buildings need significant work up to and including a new school itself. We'd be submitting under the core program again to the MSBA, seeking to partner with the MSBA on a project specific to Center School first, that we're claiming that the building is obsolete and needs to be replaced. to have at least a significant project. Whether or not it's a new school would have to be determined during the course of a feasibility study, but certainly major renovations, major work needs to be completed at the Center Elementary School. All of you have been there, all of you have seen it. It's the elementary school in most need of assistance, most need of work. We would be submitting under a priority number 7, replacement and renovation of a building replacement and renovation of or in addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. Both the submissions that I'm going to be seeking tonight for the City Council, from the City Council for the Center School and Peabody Veterans Memorial High School is not due till the end of the month. We have a little bit of time in order to get everything to be submitted. I'm hoping that we can get the vote tonight so we can move forward. These are a little bit more complicated in terms of submissions, that we need a little additional time, but the actual due date is not till the end of April, so we're a little bit ahead on that, which is good news. But I'm happy to answer any specific questions about the Center School. It is very much a top priority along with Peabody Veterans Memorial High School as the building's most in need, and I'm happy to delve deeper if the council would be so, if you so request it. But Mr. Chairman, I'll leave it at that and here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, questions from other councilors? Councilor Rosignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Mayor. I know you said that there's going to have to be a feasibility study once we submit these. I know in the past when I was on the school committee, we used to have to rank what our priority was. Do you need that done in this case as far as the center school and the high school?
I don't want to pick between the two. And we discussed it, but I don't think we want to prioritize one over the other. I remember when we had the Welch School and the Center School, we submitted them together without prioritizing, and the MSBA actually came in, evaluated both buildings, and they actually felt that the Welch School was the most in need. So I would like to submit them just as both top priorities. I didn't really want to rank them. If the MSBA ultimately would end up doing that like they did with the Welch School.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Rosignol. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Mayor, with the feasibility study for both of these projects being done so recently, is there an opportunity to use the same feasibility study? Do you have to start all over for this submission?
Unfortunately, we didn't even get to that point. The feasibility study would be if we were to be approved by the MSBA, that would be the very first thing that's done is they would perform a feasibility study, look at options for replacement, for major addition, building up on a building, or just a completely new building. That would be determined in the feasibility study. So we haven't even got to that point. We've done some of our own individual studies, but they're not something that correlates to what the MSBA would need. So in terms of steps in the process, one would be a feasibility study. Then we get into, and feasibility study is the assessment of the building with recommendations, and then we would get into project funding and create a project funding agreement. So no, we haven't even got to that point yet with the MSBA, and that's why we're hoping this could be the year. I do feel optimistic, and we've been encouraged to put these forward. We've certainly had, we've reached out as a group. Superintendent Vidala, our state legislators have reached out to try to put in a good word for these projects and state the need. So we're very hopeful that one of these projects, I don't know if there'd be two, but one of these projects would be approved this year.
Great. Thanks for clarifying the process. That's helpful.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have more of a comment than a question. I just want to thank the school committee members that came tonight and for the committee as a whole for putting this forward, as well as the mayor. I don't have a child in the center school right now, but I've been involved with the center school team recently, and they do have a great group of teachers, but the facilities over there could certainly need some love and attention. So I appreciate the support that this is getting, as well as with the high school. It's been a while since I've been over there in the building, in the classrooms, but even back in the day when I was, it could use some attention. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Any other councilors? Seeing none. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a co-motion with Councilor Daigle to submit the following statement of interest to the MSBA regarding the Center School. Be it resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 24th, 2022, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 2022 for the Center School located at 18 Irving Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is Priority 7, replacement and renovation of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. The specific objective of this SOI is to partner with the MSBA in a feasibility study for the replacement of the Center School. The educational deficiencies of the Center School are articulated in the Center School SOI and include the need for gym space, cafeteria space, food service, server, and kitchen space, much needed upgrades to classrooms, meeting rooms, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems. And the City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city to file an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So moved.
Councilors, you heard the motion by Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Council Manning Martin.
On PVMHS. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be it resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 24th, 2022, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Peabody City Council, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinance, vote to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 2022 for Peabody Veterans Memorial High School, located at 485 Lowell Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority categories selected are MSBA priority number 3, prevention of loss of accreditation, the New England Association of Schools and Colleges Commission on Public Schools voted to place PVMHS on warning status for the standard of instruction and community resources for learning. The NEASC accreditation report of March 2020 cited the lack of facilities sufficient to fully implement the curriculum, including co-curricular programs and other learning opportunities, programs, and service. Inadequate HVAC and electrical systems, insufficient bathrooms, broken or non-functioning light in classrooms, hallways, and parking lots, unsafe water quality, limited handicap access, inadequate security, including insufficient passage, locking systems, leaking roofs, and out-of-state classrooms, studios, and labs. MSBA priority number 4, replacement or renovation of an addition to an obsolete building in order to provide a full range of programs consistent with the state and approved local requirements. The educational deficiencies for PVMHS are articulated in the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School SOI and include the need for much-needed upgrades to classrooms, science areas, career vocational technical education classrooms, meeting rooms, counseling offices, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems, energy efficiencies, building envelope, disability, accessibility, and security considerations. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Council Manning Martin, can you just flip the page there? And thank you.
Flipping the page. And the school committee here, the city council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance of the approval of the application, the awarding of the grant, or any other funding commitment from the MSBA, or commits the city to file an application for funding with the Massachusetts Building Authority. Now so moved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion by Council Manning Martin. On the motion, Council Rossignol.
I'll yield following the vote.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, could I just weigh in? Thank you for the motion, Councilor Manning Martin. I just want to add, because there was a little bit of an addition that we added this time around, and this was something brought forward by our school committee member, Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn. In the past, this is our 4th year moving forward with this request for the high school, and of course, every year the need gets further and further, very clear to me, I think to all of us. But we've always applied under priority number 7, which is just that the building is obsolete and we need upgrades to our science labs, technology, all of that. This year we added priority number 3, which is prevention of loss of accreditation, as was read by Councilor Manning Martin. We added this one this year because we did have our accreditation, which is a process that a city high school goes through every 10 years. We were accredited, which is great. There are 7 categories. We were approved and accredited. However, we were given a warning for the facility itself. Warning means, although the accreditation is good for 10 years and it's reviewed on a 10-year basis, the warning is actually reviewed regularly. I don't want to say annually, but much more recent than a 10 years. So we were concerned about that very thing where, there's great work taking place in the high school. Teachers, administrators are getting what they can out of that building. We're very fortunate to have excellent people working there. But the building is subpar right now. As all of you know, you've all been in it. You've seen it. A number of you went there. A number of your kids have gone there. The building is in dire need, and concern being that we would reach a point where the inadequate HVAC and electrical systems, insufficient bathrooms, broken and non-functioning lighting in classrooms, the hallways, the leaks in the roof that are regular occurrences. This year we had a major problem with our HVAC system when we needed to do some significant work that was time sensitive and needed to be done pretty quickly during the winter to keep the building functioning and keeping it warm for our students and faculty. So we felt that adding this particular language and having the 2 priorities, priority 3 and priority 7, would really amplify the need that we have here. It's just further always supported by the fact that we have a state-of-the-art, one of the top middle schools in our state. We're going from there to our high school, which again, thankfully we have the teachers and faculty to make it work, but we're going from brand new science labs and technology to science labs and technology that are subpar. So I think we felt that by articulating this particular priority number 3, stating the fact that we are on warning, that just further showed the need for this application. We're hoping that that might bring us acceptance into the program. But I do want to make sure everybody knew we've always gone in priority 7, but we added priority number 3 this year. The accreditation just came back last year. It's good for 10 years, but the warning is there, and that won't be going away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're all set, Mr. Anyone else on the motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item on the agenda are transfer funds, CPC, Community Preservation Act Administration, amount of $3,500. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This is a request from CPC to transfer the $3,500 from unreserved fund balance to cover administrative costs.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to transfer from Community Preservation Act unreserved fund balance, account number 270-0000-33011, the amount of $3,500 to Community Preservation Act Administration, account number 270-1811-53125, again in the amount of $3,500. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion from Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda, transfer funds, cable fund expense, an amount of $197,785.87. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This request is to transfer 90% of the payment we received from Comcast for the fourth quarter ending in December.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to transfer account receipts reserve cable fund, account number 270-0000-33017, the amount of $197,000, $197,785.87, to account name cable fund expense number 270-0000-53007, again in the amount of $197,785.87. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion from Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda, transfer fund, cable fund expense. Two line items. I am not going to read the amounts that are on the agenda as they require an update. Mr. Gingras.
Yes, the original amounts need to be amended. What I request the committee do is increase the first line item from 20,608.15 to 21,207.55. That's an increase of $599.40. And in the next line, we're going to decrease it by $666 from 5,245.59 to 4,579.59. The reason for this is I actually added the $666 to the fixed costs, and it should have been up into the fees.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve transfer request, receipts reserve cable fund, account number 270-000-33017, an amount of $21,207.55, and account number 270-000-33017, an amount of $4,579.59. To cable fund expense, account number 270-000-53007, an amount of $21,207.55, and account number 270-000-53007, an amount of $4,579.59. Councilor Gould?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
This time I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? We're adjourned.
We're going to get started in 2 minutes. Good evening. The City Council will convene on Thursday, March 24th to hold its regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing any and all business via in-person and remote participation in accordance with the Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 20A, B, and C of the Acts of 2021 signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16, 2021. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. This meeting is being televised by Peabody Access Television on cable channel 9. 2, the real-time public comment during public meetings can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using the Zoom virtual meeting software to remote access. Users may view the meeting and make a comment or question to the chair via the audio option. Please visit www.peabody-ma.gov for the Zoom information. This meeting is being taped by Peabody Access Television and is being recorded by the Peabody City Council stenographer. Please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Councilor Gould. You heard the motion from Councilor Gould for approval of the record. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. We're going to begin with item 4A. Councilor Welton. It's a special permit, Corwin LLC, care of Cargo Ventures, 13 Corwin Street.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive late communication 7. So moved.
You heard the motion to receive the late communication, and Councilor Welton, you'll make a motion to continue the public hearing. So we're going to receive that late communication. All in favor? Any opposed? Is a vote. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to recess the public hearing for the matter of 13 Corwin Street.
Councilor Welton, we're going to continue the meeting. we're not going to open up, so we're not going to so it would be a continuation of the meeting.
Got it.
All right, thank you, Councilor Welton. You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Moving on to item 4B, special permit Hoyle Construction Inc., 68 Prospect Street. The clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 24th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from CV 13 Corwin LLC, care of Cargo Ventures, 440 McClellan Highway, Unit 105P, East Boston, Mass., for a special permit to operate a trucking terminal in an IP district at 13 Corwin Street, Peabody, Mass., is filed in accordance with Sections 4.2.6, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Thank you. Is the applicant ready to begin? If you want to come. Okay. Very good. Attorney Kelty, are you on the Zoom?
Mr. President, just clarification, I think Clerk Danforth may have accidentally read special permit A.
Oh, well, that's a problem. So do we want to go, I mean, that's going to be continued. Do we want to go out of order, take that continuance that Councilor Peach, do you have that? Do you want to just take care of that now? Oh, she read the Kerwin Street. We were dealing with a technical issue at the time. I apologize, Council. Okay. Would the clerk please read item 4B, the public notice for Hoyle Construction Inc., 68 Prospect Street. This is to the clerk's credit. She was also we were doing two things at once and trying to help out the applicant. So, Clerk Danforth.
Notice hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 24th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Hoyle Construction Inc., 30 Choate Lane, Ipswich, Mass., for a special permit requesting to demolish the former MRI building on site and construct 32 two-bedroom units to be called the Ashley Court Condominium at 68 Prospect Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 6.16, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Thank you, Clerk. Actually, one more item before we get started on the special permit hearing. There's a late communication from Attorney Khan regarding the threshold. There was some question on whether this would require a simple majority or a supermajority vote for approval because of some updates in state law. Attorney Khan provided a memo and a late communication. I also asked Attorney Khan to stick around for the beginning of the meeting in case there were any questions about that, just so that everybody's clear on what it will take for an approval, which is the typical. Councilor McGinn?
Move to receive late communication 6.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn to receive the motion, the late communication 6. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. So just wanted to make sure if there was any questions on that. I have Attorney Khan here for the beginning of the meeting. As long as everybody's clear on that, I think. Is there any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll proceed with the hearing. Attorney Kelty?
Yes. Am I being heard?
We can hear you, yep.
Thank you. Madam Clerk and Mr. President, my name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I represent Hoyle Construction, Inc. With me this evening, our members of the team are Kevin Hoyle, who is the owner, developer, and builder of this project. Joe Betancourt, who is our architect and has designed this presentation and the buildings to be constructed. and Christopher Armello from Eastern Land Survey, who has provided our engineering. The proposal is for 32 two-bedroom condominium units. There will be 6 of that number will be affordable pursuant to the inclusionary zoning provisions of the City of Peabody zoning ordinance. Our application is being made to you under the provisions of the residential overlay district, which is section 616. The 32 two-bedroom units will be also enhanced by the addition of 84 spaces. There will be 32 garaged spaces, 32 driveway spaces, and 18 open air spaces plus 2 spaces which are fully ADA compliant, bringing our total to 84 spaces. This project has achieved compliance with your City Council Rule 18. The Rule 18 dictates that other permits necessarily to be gotten from other boards be in place at the outset of before the City Council hears the matter. So we have, in accordance with that section of your municipal rules, we have been to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We were granted a sideline variance in order to locate one of the corners of our property. Initially, we had appeared at the Board of Appeals seeking a number of seek a number of setback approvals. They were principally for the decks. After a meeting with our neighbors, we decided that we would decrease the size of our decks, and therefore we were able to go back before the Zoning Board of Appeals seeking one setback at one front corner of the property, and we were granted that variance. Since then, we have been to construction review, which is held in the afternoon with all the department heads. The planning board then takes up the matter before them and their board, and they have provided us with an approval, and included in their approval, which is included in your packet, is a memo from the Department of Public Services. The Department of Public Services looked at all of our filings, stormwater management, potable water availability, all of the engineering that had to be done. And they decided that in order for us to achieve compliance with the I&I infiltration and regulations of the City of Peabody, that a contribution of $70,400 must need be made. That, if you're looking at your package, that is item number 13 in the Public Services Memorandum, which had provided, which accompanied the final approval of the Planning Board. We've also been to the Conservation Commission, in which we have had an ANRAD approved. Lucia Del Negro, the conservation agent, has included in the comments of her department in her area. She has included the conditions with respect to that ANRAD, and she has recited in her notes that in the event that we are not able to provide zero impact on a detention facility, which is now the resource area, then we would be required to come back with an order of conditions, but we filed with them our plans demonstrating that there would be no impact, no increase in runoff or impact at all on that wetland area. Other issues that have arisen at our neighborhood meetings, we've had a total of at least, I think, 3, and there was a 4th that I was not at. And we've tried to stay in touch as any change has been made to the plan. We've tried to stay in touch and review all of those changes with the board. We have agreed that we saw the memo from the tax department indicating that the third quarter was not paid. I think that Councilor Daigle has determined that those taxes are paid. I think my client went down very recently and paid the third quarter tax. We've seen the community development, we've seen the Board of Health memorandum in which during demolition, asbestos and any other hazmat materials must be attended to and provided for. And also during our demolition, there must need be a rodent control plan put in place. I am aware of the solicitor's letter regarding the number of votes that would be necessary tonight. We are aware that this particular project does not fall into the category in which less than a super majority would be required for the issuance of a special permit. Our expectation is that we are in need of 8 of the council votes, and we're hopeful that our presentation and our work to date will qualify us for that approval. Our plans in item number 1 on the Department of Public Services memorandum dictate that we provide concrete sidewalk along our frontage. We have agreed with Councilor Daigle that we would be happy to extend that sidewalk down beyond the Felton Cemetery right to the corner of Emery Street so that we would have an appropriate link of the sidewalk on that side. And with that, I think that I'm happy to turn the matter over to Joseph Betancourt, our architect. And I don't know, is Tom McMullen, our landscape architect, here this evening?
We have Mr. Betancourt is available to begin his presentation, Attorney Gelty.
That's great.
Okay.
Very good.
Very good. Mr. Betancourt, just name and address for the record, and you can begin your presentation.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Betancourt. I'm an architect with a design studio at 14 North Central Street here in Peabody. We appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to share the project with you this evening. I wanted to just add a little bit to what Attorney Kelty started to say, and really to say a few thank yous. As he mentioned, there was a lot of work that went into this process with the various groups along the way through the city commissions and boards, and they have really helped us to kind of elevate the project to where it is today. They really pushed us, they questioned us, and so I just wanted to say thank you for that. Also to our neighbors, Solange and Janice are here tonight, as well as the other neighbors from Emery Street, who were very great to work with and also helped us to kind of elevate the project to where it is today, especially that edge along the northern side, as I'll show you in just a little bit, that sort of abuts the backside of our property in their backyard. So thank you to everyone for helping us to get to where we are. Thank you. So we all know the site, but I wanted to start with this kind of broader view of the general location, just as a reminder as to why 68 Prospect Street is really a great site for a development of this type. So just looking at the map, just in terms of orientation, we see 114 sort of running diagonally across the screen. Salem is to the right, Danvers is to the upper portion of the screen. So from a vehicular standpoint, there's great access to 114, 128, Route 1, 95, as well as a lot of retail opportunities, shopping. We've got the North Shore Mall to the right. There's some great healthcare facilities in the area. And on our side of the line, meaning on the southern portion of the screen, we do have Brooksby Farm, which is just a 10-minute walk from the site, as well as the beautiful walking path that runs parallel to Lowell Street, and ends up at the southern portion of the North Shore Mall. So overall, just a great general location for a development of this type. The other way. Zooming in just a little bit more on the site, technical difficulties. So as we zoom in just a little bit on the site, we see the white line that sort of traces around the perimeter of the site. This is an older image now. Obviously, the existing building has been knocked down. But what it does is it kind of gives us some insight as to the different uses and textures that are sort of around the site. To the northeast corner on the screen, we actually have a historic cemetery, which a lot of people don't know about. It's kind of a little treasure that happens to be close by. To the right of the site, we have a beautiful new hotel and a restaurant. To the southern portion of the site, that's on the lower part of the screen, we have Essex Green, which is a larger scale residential development that has some larger buildings, medium-sized buildings, and small buildings as well. And on the upper portion of the screen that sort of runs left to right, that is Emery Street. And Emery Street, for those who don't know, it's a beautiful little street, very quaint, beautiful homes, and very charming. And we actually want to bring some of that charm up the hill a little bit onto the project that we're proposing tonight. One of the most important issues from the public realm perspective is the sidewalk along 68 Prospect Street. And if we remember what it used to look like, that's the image on the left. The sidewalk was overgrown. Parts of it were actually unsafe, falling apart. And as you can see with the image on the right, there's a lot of clearing that's already happened, much more visible, much more open, and already it's a lot safer. So the idea, as Attorney Kelty was saying, is that we will be installing a new sidewalk from the upper portion of our site all the way down to the next curb cut. So that will all be fresh, new, wider, safer, very important part of our project for the public realm. Another important aspect is the entry sequence into the site. So the image to the left, if we remember, there was a large mound that was to the left-hand side as you exited, actually making it very difficult to see the traffic that was coming up. And so as you can see with the image on the right, we've already started to scrape that down and make it much easier, much more visible for traffic that will be coming into the site as well as the cars that are coming up Prospect Street. General project overview. So our site is about 2.4 acres. So it's about 106,000 square feet, give or take. We have the ability to develop basically an FAR of 1, which means we could actually build 106,000 gross square feet. Our proposed development, we're showing around 83,000 gross square feet, which puts us at about a 0.8 FAR. So essentially, we're only utilizing 80% of the development capacity. Our development is showing 32 townhouse-style units. These are all owner-occupied. All of these are 2 bedrooms per code. We are showing 64 parking spaces as required. So each unit will have a garage, and each unit will have a driveway. So that gets us the 2 spaces per unit. You'll see that the central parking court, we're showing 20 visitor spaces, and 2 of those are ADA compliant. 6 of the units, as Attorney Kelty had mentioned, are affordable units. From a construction point of view, this is pretty simple residential all wood construction, so type 5A. Fully sprinklered buildings, you'll see we're showing 5 buildings. Everything is rated in between the units, and we'll be using the 2015 IVC building code. So this is an aerial view showing the 5 buildings. So if we start with building 1 and sort of work our way counterclockwise, that actually Sort of shows the phasing. So building 1 has 6 units, with 1 unit being affordable. Building 2 has 8 units, 3 of those are affordable. Building 3 has 6 units, and 2 of those are affordable. And the north units, building 4 and building 5, will have 6 units in those. You can see we talked a little bit about the northern edge, the one that abuts our neighbors on Emery Street. After a couple of meetings, we sort of came to the agreement that we would be installing a 7-foot tall fence. You can see that sort of in purple running left to right on the screen. And that fence will be 7 feet off of the property line, and we'll be doing some thoughtful landscaping on sort of their side of the fence, and we'll sort of work with them when that time comes. You can see also the central common that's part of the development. Again, that parking court in the middle really wants to be more of a landscape, not just a parking lot. This is kind of an aerial view looking from the hotel vantage point. So we see the south units are to the left, that's Peabody. The north units to the right, that's Danvers, and then across to the west units. One of the things to sort of take away from this image is the idea of really balancing the development with the landscape. So we want to make sure that we're not just putting up buildings, but we're also being very thoughtful to how we're dealing with the landscaping, making sure that it's lush and that it's going to be as beautiful as the area around it. So this is just starting to give a hint of that balance. If you look at the image, the upper image, that sort of black and white image, we followed the red line from left to right. That shows the topography of the site. So if we start from the left, that's actually elevation 100. We can see that it then descends down to the central plateau, which is kind of in the middle in the aerial. That's roughly elevation 93, 94. And as we continue along that line to the right, we see how it drops down in the back to elevation 84, and then it continues to drop to the neighbor's backyard. So just giving us kind of a general sense of the configuration and the profile of the hill and how we're sort of dealing with it. And then just a kind of early study for the ambition for the entry sequence. Again, we want to keep that wall a little bit lower. The landscaping wants to kind of frame the views into the site and out of the site, making it easy to see the cars coming and going, and really creating that balance, again, between the landscape and the buildings. This is an image of building number 1. So this would be the first building that we're constructing. This is on the south side, just giving us a sense of the architectural character. We're trying to keep things simple, not overly articulated or decorated, but trying to make it a little bit more sophisticated. So generally, the bulk of the building are light tones, white, gray, complemented with the dark windows, and then the dark stone base, which really will help to root the project into the landscape. Each of the units will have a porch, as you see here, and that's consistent all the way through. And then just zooming in a little bit, this is still very early, but giving us a sense of that articulation, that kind of simple level of quality that we're trying to get to. And then in strategic areas, bringing some level of craft. You see some of the bracketing on the windows, and maybe it's a copper roof. Just bringing a little bit of richness to the detailing, as well as some more materials in those areas that we get close to, the parking, the garage, the porch, and areas like that. This is a view of the units on the right-hand side. Again, same aesthetic, different height, but same kind of quality and same attitude towards materiality. The simple white textures on the siding. All the porches will sort of look the same. You see the garage and the parking space for each unit. And then just a quick look at the central commons. The idea is to try to bring maybe a little landscape structure into here, offer an amenity for the residents. So we'll have the mailboxes here, possibly some seating. Again, the idea is that, this doesn't want to be a parking lot. It wants to feel like a landscape that you can park in. And just another view, the mailboxes, some seating, landscaping, and just, again, trying to create that friendly environment as a centerpiece for the project. So we thank you for the opportunity to share the project with you, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Moving on, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor? Anybody you wish to speak in favor? You can come on up. Just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Janice McDonough, and my husband Joe and I reside at number 8 Emory Street, where we have lived for 46 years. I am here tonight with my neighbor, Solange Leighton, raise your hand, Sal, who resides at number 6 Emory Street. My remarks this evening are made on behalf of my husband, myself, and Solange. Remembering the schematic that Joe Betancourt just shared with us, 12 condominium townhouses on the north side of Ashley Court will abut number 6 and number 8 Emory Street, effectively stretching across our backyards. In addition, 6 townhouses on the western side of Ashley Court will run perpendicular to my property. Needless to say, Ashley Court will impact us. Both Ashley Court and Emory Street are located off of Prospect Street, which, as we just saw, is a hill. Emory Street is the first right coming up Prospect Street from Route 114, with Ashley Court now the second right further up the hill. With Emory Street being significantly downhill, the 2-story line of 12 townhomes that run across our yards will loom even larger than their stated height and significantly impact sunlight into our yards. Although we would have rather had open space or many fewer townhomes, this was not possible. And so, over many meetings, we met with the developer, Kevin Hoyle, and his team to address some of our concerns. The developer and his team were very attentive and responsive. They will construct, as Joe Betancourt just referenced, a 7-foot gray vinyl fence along the north side of the project with 5-foot evergreens planted on the Emory Street side of the fence, and we appreciate this very much. Another major concern was and is water mitigation. Remember, we're downhill. You saw the slope. The developer addressed this through a series of infiltration tanks which are designed to capture most of the water, and a swale, which runs across the property line with number 6 and number 8, again, Sal's home and my home, Emory Street. We have been told by the developer's team that water captured by the tanks and swale will slowly dissipate into the ground, or if there is a lot of water, the water will flow into the existing stormwater basin, which sits behind number 12 Emory Street. We have been told by the team that there should be less water coming off the site after construction than there is now. We hope they are right. We certainly hope this works. It sounds good. However, we are not engineers, and therefore look to the City of Peabody engineers as an independent third party to validate the water mitigation strategy. We need to be sure that this infrastructure, the tanks, the swale, the stormwater basin, are appropriately maintained and monitored to be effective on an ongoing basis. If they are not, our yards, our homes will float. We look to our city council, our city engineers to ensure that these strategies are sound, that they work, and that there will be a requirement for them to be maintained on an ongoing basis to keep our homes safe. Finally, I would like to thank the following people for our support. Number one, the Emery Street neighbors. Emery Street is more than just number 6 and number 8. There's a great group of people that live there. Number two, our current city councilor, Julie Daigle, who became our councilor in January and got up to speed very quickly and organized and participated in many meetings. Our previous city councilor, Ed Charest, for his guidance and participation last year. Lucia Del Negro, she is really a jewel of the city here, of the Conservation Commission, for keeping us informed about the special permit application. Councilors McGinn and Turco for coming to the neighborhood meeting last week. We appreciate that. And lastly, Kevin Hoyle and his team, who have been responsive and professional in all dealings with us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak in favor? Is there anybody on the Zoom app that wishes to speak in favor? Do you see anybody with their hands up? Anybody else on the Zoom app wish to speak in favor? If you raise your hand, we can. Not seeing anybody else. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on the Zoom platform wish to speak in opposition? If you want to raise your hand. Not seeing any. So, oh, you got somebody? All right, if you want to just identify. Once you got them. Russ, if you want to just identify, give us your name and address for the record, please. You could unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
You're coming in kind of, can you speak a little bit clearer into the, just directly into the mic?
I'm trying to find the mic. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
All right. I'm really not against it, but I'd like to make a comment if you don't mind.
The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. My understanding of that street is, I think all of us have driven up it more than one time or another. It's a kind of a narrow street. It's very steep. And I believe that portion of the street is one way. Is that correct?
Mr. Donovan, can you speak, is this Russ, I mean, can you just give us your name and address for the record? We couldn't hear you originally.
All right, for the record, the name is Russell Donovan, 12 Quail Road in South Peabody.
Can you just repeat your question?
My point is, I believe that street is one way at that portion of the road, and it's uphill, not going down to the lights.
Yes, it is one way.
Now, if you put a major development of 68 units or whatever, 32 units, whatever it is, are you going to alter the traffic flow there? Because as you know, right at the bottom of that hill is 114, and that's a major highway in Peabody that has a long history of traffic problems.
Mr. Kelty or Mr. Betancourt, do you want to answer that question?
Was there, I didn't get the question actually.
Jack, my question is this. The road that the development's going on, that portion is one way.
Yes.
Are you proposing to have that street traffic altered to accommodate the increased flow of cars into the site? Or is the city going to allow you to make changes? Because it's right off of 114, and that's a major highway which has a long history of traffic.
We are not.
Mr. Kelty, do you want to answer that question?
We're not proposing any change in the one-way nature, nor have we detected any deficiencies in the sections of Prospect Street that we are impacting, either at its intersection with Cross or its intersection with 114. None of the peer review or in-house city review has revealed any deficiency requiring us to alter any portions of the roadway.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Anybody else on the Zoom app wish to speak in opposition? Just raise your hand. Not seeing any. Councilor Daigle?
Thank you, Mr. President. And under a suspension of the rules, I move to receive items 8E, 8J, and 8K.
You heard the motion from Councilor Daigle. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Daigle.
And under suspension of the rules, I also move to receive late communication number 1.
You heard the motion to receive late communication 1. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Daigle.
And I do want to point out the legal ad caused a little bit of confusion. The building on the property has in fact been demolished back in the fall. So all of the comments and discussions, I am not going to talk about the demolition of the building since it's already happened. A little summary from my perspective coming into this project, and thank you, Janice, you did a great job outlining this. I should have you come up and read my notes, you're very eloquent. We had a hybrid virtual meeting in January with Attorney Kelty, Chris Mello, Joe Betancourt, Kevin Hoyle, and 2 of the neighbors, talking about the main concern was the water and the detention basins and how that water was going to be handled. And then we had a follow-up neighborhood meeting on March 16th with the same group, 7 neighbors, as well as councilors McGinn and Turco. Thank you for joining us with that. I'd like to thank the city departments for all the time they've spent into this and submitting their comments. I'm going to brush through and summarize them just for anyone that's watching from home. The city collector, this has been mentioned earlier, but confirmed that the taxes that were owed on the property have in fact been paid. The fire department submitted a comment asking that the city engineer use specifications provided to ensure that the fire department apparatus can access the property. The Conservation Commission summarized that on November 4th, a negative determination was issued with the following condition: any changes that will increase the stormwater flow characteristics from 68 Prospect to said stormwater basin will trigger conservation approval. Any changes to said stormwater basin from either Essex Apartments, which is 1 Avalon Drive, or 68 Prospect will require a filing with the local commission and Mass DEP to ensure stormwater standards are still being met. The basin has not been maintained to date, and the operations and management must be followed going forward. To date, the basin has not been maintained, and the plan shows a proposed infiltration trench being directed into said detention basin. If condition above cannot be met, an NOI would be required to ensure the basin is adequate. The health department has asked to ensure that the appropriate measures are taken to address environmental hazards such as lead and asbestos abatement prior to demo. That no longer applies. They did ask that a plan be developed to prevent nuisance dust migration during the demo process. That doesn't apply anymore either, so pardon me. The Department of Public Services issued a memo on January 5th, 2022 to the Planning Board with several recommendations. The Planning Board recommended issuing a permit with a condition that the application address and complete the 1 to 15 items on pages 2 and 3 of a memo from Will Politz. Community Development provided a summary in a memo that in favor of this project and confirmed that the project will provide 6 affordable units and is in line with the desired goals of section 6.16. A few people have asked about construction hours, and they are per the building department policies, which are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., And Sunday, federal and state holidays can only, construction can only happen with permission from the building commissioner in writing. I do want to say that some concessions that have been brought up that have been made by the developer, such as agreeing to move certain existing plans with the planning board. They moved their where the decks were to accommodate the abutters. They already went ahead and fixed a gate for the cemetery next door and have agreed to install fencing and landscaping for their benefit as well as the abutters. As part of the memo to the planning board from Will Politz at Public Services, he said the applicant's project is expected to increase their daily sewer loading by 7,040 gallons. The applicant will be required to remove 200% of these additional flows through a monetary payment of $70,400 deposited into the city's I&I removal fund. As part of the residential overlay, which this is in, a capital facility assessment can be required. In this case, since the applicant is meeting all of the requirements and has proven that they are not adding any need for this to the system, the applicant will not be paying the assessment, but has agreed to the following conditions. And Attorney Kelty can elaborate on that if anyone's curious. What they did approve to is the condition that the applicant shall post a bond acceptable to the Department of Public Services in the amount of $75,000 to ensure that site work is completed prior to issuing the last 2 occupancy permits. As was mentioned earlier, the applicant did agree to install a sidewalk from Prospect Street across the cemetery onto or ending at Emery Street and improving that area. So I am supportive of this project, but I am open to the thoughts and concerns of my fellow councilors and eager to hear what they are. And I'd like to open it up to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Any council? Any questions? Councilor Turco, and then Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Yeah, the project's been well covered. I just want to start because Ms. McDonough had mentioned that she's not an engineer, and none of us are. And I want you to know that we have I think we all feel the same way. We have a city engineer named Will Politz, who is extremely thorough, one of the best. We're lucky to have him. And I've had quite a few conversations with him about this project, and his confidence is my confidence. So, you know, you should feel good about that. But with all that said, one of the things in the ordinance, and I guess I'll ask this to Mr. Betancourt, if you don't mind, is parking lot lighting and common area lighting. I didn't hear you mention that, unless I missed it.
Yeah, so we did have a kind of a general lighting plan, obviously very early, so we don't have the specifics on the lumens and sort of the output. And we had some really good conversations about light levels and the idea of keeping light levels down, not creating any additional uplighting, you know, for light pollution on site. So it is something that we're also very sensitive to, but we just have not gotten to the lighting plan specifically. But we have talked about it conceptually with the planning board.
Okay, and it mentions parking lot lighting and landscape lighting, and you know, I'm not sure if the way it reads, if it's actually mandatory or if it's just suggested that it's integrated into the project. But just something I wanted you to be aware of, that we could possibly, for safety reasons, I think it actually mentions in the ordinance for residents walking to their doors or even walking dogs behind the buildings, or you know, the lighting should be adequate enough. The other question I had was the ZBA had put a requirement in for the arborvitaes on the north side of the property. What's the maintenance plan for those? I discussed it very quickly with Councilor Daigle during your presentation. And you know, as we all know, arborvitaes, they get really, really tall. And I don't want it to fall upon these people that they have to maintain these arborvitaes. Is there the condo association going to maintain that as part of your property, or what's the intention? Do you know? I don't even know if you're the right guy to ask this question to.
Probably Attorney Kelty, but I think the idea is that, yeah, there'll be an association, there'll be sort of guidelines, and they are responsible for following and maintaining not only the little swale that's going to run on that north side, but also the landscaping on the north side of the fence.
Thank you. So through you, Mr. Chairman, to Councilor Kelty. Jack, would you be amenable to Councilor Daigle adding that as a condition that your client or the condo association shall maintain that fence as well as the arborvitae's on the north side requested by the neighbors?
We're fine with that.
Thank you, Jack. I had one other. My last question is regarding the inclusionary zoning. The ordinance says 20%. I understand you're at 6.4, which you rounded down to 6. I think that may be the way it works. But it doesn't mention a time frame, and I think, you know, we're losing out on some of these 40Bs that are coming up where I haven't heard time frames mentioned. We have the ability to make that perpetuity. I would prefer to put it in perpetuity. I haven't heard anybody mention what your intended time frame for the 6 units is. Some of the 40Bs that were recently approved have been passed at 30 years, and I think that's a mistake on our part. So with that, Jack, have you discussed that?
Yes, I mean, ours would be intended to run contemporaneously with any city affordable housing program. So as such, I don't believe their units fall off of your affordable unit count, and they remain in perpetuity, virtually in perpetuity.
Thank you, Jack. So that would be, you'd be okay with adding that as a condition also, that the 6 units shall remain affordable in perpetuity?
Well, for so long as the City of Peabody is managing their affordable housing program. I mean, without the sort of involvement of the city, to the extent that we have to approve our candidates for the occupants for the affordable housing, that they need be approved by the city. If in 20 years there is no such program any longer, then I would not want to outlive the program itself.
Understood. Thank you.
I would expect the city of Peabody will always have such a program. So.
Yeah, that's my belief too. So for all intents and purposes, we're going to agree that this is 6 units in perpetuity, unless the city of Peabody gets away from the affordable housing programs, which I don't see happening. But thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. It's Councilor Peach, then Councilor Gould, and Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have any questions on the project. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to make a comment of, I think this is exactly how projects like this should happen. There was obviously a lot of discussion with the abutters, with the project developers. I commend Councilor Daigle for the work she did jumping into this project, and Councilor Charest at the beginning of this project. There was a change of hands. It went very smoothly, seemingly. Thank you to the neighbors who came out to speak. Your comments weigh very heavily on my vote tonight. The fact that you admit you gave some things up, and it's not the perfect project, and it's not a beautiful park, which I'm sure you would have enjoyed, but in the name of moving forward as a city in progress, I think this is a great project. I'm happy to support it along with Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Gould, and Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to either Attorney Kelty or Mr. Betancourt. For those of us that aren't totally familiar with the traffic pattern on Prospect to Emory, can you please, one of you please describe what the traffic pattern is so we know?
Mr. Betancourt or Mr. Kelty, whoever would like to take that.
There is, there's no access traveling downhill from our project to Emory. So in order to get to Emory or our project, you've got to enter from the bottom of the hill at Route 114, Andover, which would be the northerly side, and you would extend yourself uphill, and then you join at the top of the hill. Traffic joins Cross Street. Prospect would be from Sue Chang's straight through down our hill if you could go that way, whereas Cross Street bends off to the right and is the buildings, Long's, Jewelers that face the North Shore Mall. Is that answering your question?
I think so. So if you're coming from Sue Chang's, you have to go down the hill and come back up Prospect Street.
Yeah, I'd have to, yes.
And if you're coming out of Emory, you can't go left on Prospect.
That's correct.
Yeah, you can go left.
We have Mr. Betancourt.
If they come out of Emory, yes. Not from our place, though.
Okay, I get you. I'm sorry. So Ashley Court Condominiums, 68 Prospect Street, you have to go right coming out of the complex. Okay, thank you.
And that same thing is true of the hotel on the other side. They must go left.
Mrs. McDonough, come on up, Mrs. McDonough.
A point of clarification is that Prospect Street, if you're on Route 114, you go up the hill. However, Prospect Street becomes a one-way, not at Route 114. It becomes a one-way right after Emory Street. So for Emory Street residents only, you may take a left or a right. And the reason this was done, in the wisdom of the City Council, and I think it was Attorney Harry Ankeles many, many years ago. I, again, was a homeowner then. And it was because when it's icy, you can't make it up the hill. And so we would be stranded on Emory Street. And so from Emory Street, you can either be up or down, but it's only two ways from that juncture.
Thank you. That was helpful.
We should put Mrs. McDonough on retainer and have her clarify a lot of things at council meetings.
Councilor Gould?
Still up, please. Mr. Betancourt, in today's environment, there's no requirement to build handicap-accessible housing units except where it's noted. Was there any thought given? Because there's no handicap-accessible units in this complex, is there?
Yeah, so I actually have reached out to the Architectural Access Board in September, and what we want to do is to start a conversation with them to see what we can do. It's difficult to make any unit fully accessible, but in the spirit of trying to do something is to see what we can do to get it ready. So if somebody wants to buy something and make it accessible, they can. I just want to, sort of learn a little bit more through the experts about what that really means. So, but I have reached out to them, and we'll continue to do that.
So that's promising because in today's world, as you know, there's so many people with disabilities that need adequate housing and need accessibility to all units of housing, whether they need it now or need it later. So I like the fact that you're actually looking at it. And we may talk later about that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor McGinn, then Councilor Welton, and Councilor Rosenau.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. Actually, along the lines of what was stated by Councilor Peach when she mentioned this is kind of the way it's supposed to work. I would absolutely agree with that, and further, I would say it's absolutely what we had in mind when this overlay language was developed by the council 3 years ago, I believe it was. There's a benefit here to the developer to do some things they wouldn't otherwise be permitted to do within the underlying zoning. So we are asking for more. We are asking for these projects to undergo significant scrutiny, and I think we heard from the architect that involvement, that work with the city departments and the engineers has improved the project, has elevated the design, and I think we're seeing a higher quality end product as a result of that effort, which again is it's good to see because that's what we had hoped would happen, and I think I don't think we necessarily need to just take your word for it, Mr. Betancourt, although I think we see some evidence of that in what's been submitted. So I feel good about this project in that this is the first one that's actually gone through the process the way it was supposed to go through the process with respect to the residential overlay. To guarantee all these things happen, ultimately, all these conditions need to exist. So I've had a few conversations with Councilor Daigle about that. I believe it's absolutely her intent to capture all those, just to make sure there's belts and suspenders to make sure that we the project that we're seeing here is delivered as such. So again, no particular additional questions, Mr. President, but just a comment on the overall process as it relates to the overlay district. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Welton, then Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, I guess, to any counselor who might be able to answer this. I was not on the council during the residential overlay zoning, but my understanding is that 20% of the units need to be affordable. Do we always allow the petitioner to round down? Is that at the discretion of the council? Could anyone clarify that?
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Welton. So the way the overlay language refers back to the main inclusionary zoning language, which does contemplate rounding down if it's less than 0.5 when they do the calculation. So it's correct.
Thank you for clarifying that. If the developer would like to round up, I think we'd all be in favor of that as well. Just throwing it out there. And but in all seriousness, I think Councilor Gould raised a very valid point, where whether it's those 6 units or if you do so choose to round up, I think it would be very beneficial to at least have those conversations to look at how some of those affordable units could be ADA accessible. I think that's a particular area that we're very proactive with. Hopefully going forward, we stay proactive as a city to make sure that individuals with disabilities have the opportunity to live in a beautiful new condo that you guys are going to be building. I'd also like to echo the comments of our fellow councilors. I think the neighbors were very, very well represented by your words, Ms. McDonough, and I think obviously there's been a lot of work that's gone into this project, so I think it's going to be a real winner. The only question I did have is I just wanted to clarify with you, each unit will have 2 spaces, a garage and a space in front, so that would be 64 units, 64 spaces. Is there an additional 64 spaces that are available? Did I understand that correctly? So for a total of 128?
Yep. Sorry if I misspoke. So it's 2 spaces per unit, so it's 64 parking spaces, 1 garage per unit, and 1 driveway, if you will. In the center, we have the 20 visitor spaces, and 2 of those are ADA compliant.
Okay, got it. That was my next question, is you need to have 10%, and that would be 2. So again, as we mentioned earlier with the housing potentially for folks that were needing ADA compliance, I would just consider maybe an extra spot or 2 as you kind of have that conversation. But you would be correct at the 10% with 2 spots for that 20. So thank you for clarifying it. I think it's a great project. I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Most of my questions have been asked and answered. I appreciate your presentation, and thank you to the neighbors for showing up. I think that really, as Councilor Peach mentioned, that does weigh a lot on our decision. To Councilor McGinn's point, Councilor Daigle, you will be adding Will Pollitz's recommendations as orders and condition.
Councilor Daigle.
Yes, what I have drafted, and I'm open to suggestions, is that per Public Services, all conditions presented to and approved by Planning Board be satisfied. All documented recommendations from Site Plan Review and the Construction Review Committees The planning board shall be considered binding conditions of this special permit. Please don't make me read all of those planning board conditions, or we'll be here for another hour.
Perfect. No, thank you. My last question is so all of Will Paulus's recommendations dealt with the north side. Through you, Mr. President, to Attorney Barrett, are there any barriers or buffer zone that you're going to add to the south side where your property is adjacent to Avalon?
No.
So the answer is there's actually some good screening that already exists. There's a row of arborvitaes along that whole edge. One of the images actually showed how private it actually is from their site to our site. So right now we're not adding anything else along that side.
So through you, Mr. President, to Attorney Barrett. So how much of a buffer zone is there between properties?
In terms of dimension? $35 feet.
Thank you.
Any other counselors? Counselor Daigle, unfortunately, the clerk informed me that she thinks it's appropriate for you to read the conditions for the special permit. So if you need a minute to get that together, let me know. All right, so my only comments on this are, I remember doing this housing overlay district. This is the intention that we're seeing here, was the intention at that time. That was by the way, it was a fantastically collaborative experience with the council. I think it passed unanimously, and every counselor had some input. It was a really good process. So I think we're seeing the fruits of that process. So, and along with all the work of the department heads and fellow counselors, past and present, that participated in this. So this was great. Counselor Daigle?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I will, one other small detail I'll add, because others have asked about trash removal. Trash will be stored on site of each unit, and then a private trash company will come weekly and pick up that trash, so that there will not be dumpsters. So I think between the conservation comments as well as the planning board comments, conditions that I will read momentarily, I feel good that the engineering on this is solid and that there should not be any water causing any damage or ponds in any of the abutters' backyards. So I am going to go ahead and make a motion to close the public hearing.
You heard the motion from Counselor Daigle to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote? Counselor Daigle?
And I'm
Again?
going...
Counselor McGinn?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, through you to Councilor Daigle. I think the fencing and the landscaping conditions exist within the ZBA decision. So would you add those as conditions as well? I think that provides the opportunity to include the maintenance condition that Councilor Turco had requested and to which the applicant was agreeable. And you had also mentioned the bond, which I don't think, $75,000 bond, which I don't think exists anywhere in any of the department responses. So my suggestion would be to also include that if it may have already been your intent. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Counselor McGinn. Counselor Daigle, we've closed the public hearing, so.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. I think I'm going to give it my best shot, but feel free to chime in if you think I'm missing something. So here goes a motion to approve the application from Hoyle Construction, Inc. for a special permit requesting to construct 32 two-bedroom units to be called the Ashley Court Condominium at 68 Prospect Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Section 6.16, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, including the following conditions. Per the Conservation Commission, any changes that will increase the stormwater flow characteristics from 68 Prospect to said stormwater basin will trigger conservation approval. Any changes to said stormwater basin from either Essex Apartment, 1 Avalon Drive, or 68 Prospect will require a filing with the local commission and Mass DEP to ensure stormwater standards are still being met. The basin has not been maintained to date, and the O&M must be followed going forward. The plan shows a proposed infiltration trench being directed into said detention basin. If condition above cannot be met, an NOI would be required to ensure the basin is adequate. Second condition per the Health Department, develop a plan to prevent nuisance dust migration during the construction process. Per Public Services, all conditions presented to and approved by the Planning Board be satisfied. All documented recommendations from Site Plan Review, the Construction Review Committee, and the Planning Board shall be considered binding conditions of this special permit, which I will read. Stand by, there's 15 of them. The applicant will be responsible for the replacement of the existing sidewalk with a concrete sidewalk and vertical granite curbing along the frontage on Prospect Street. Concrete ADA-compliant handicap ramps with tactile warning panels shall be installed along the site driveway entrance. All snow storage shall be placed in designated areas that do not interfere with pedestrian access and vehicle line of sight. In addition, the applicant shall not plow snow off of their property and into the city's right-of-way. Street trees shall be planted in areas that do not interfere with the line of sight of the applicant's driveway. Soil testing shall be conducted in the proposed swale and stormwater infiltration basins that have not been tested to conform both the depth in naturally occurring soil and depth to the seasonal high groundwater table. The soil testing shall be conducted by a Massachusetts soil evaluator and coordinated with the Department of Public Services. The soil testing shall be conducted prior to the issuance of a building permit. All fill materials are to be removed from under and within 5 feet laterally of the infiltration beds to the depth of the estimated seasonal high groundwater and replaced with Title V approved sand. A sieve analysis shall be conducted in any fill material below the ESHGW previously mentioned to verify that it has an infiltration rate in the excess of loamy sand. A bed bottom inspection shall be conducted of the subsurface infiltration basins by the applicant's licensed soil evaluator and the Department of Services. This inspection shall take place prior to the installation of any stone within the proposed subsurface infiltration basins. The infiltration beds are not to be used for stockpiling, temporary sedimentation basins, or any activities that may negatively impact their ability to properly operate in the future. Prior to the city issuing a building permit, the applicant shall provide this Department of Public Services with a copy of the finalized roof connection plans. The property owner shall mail proof of inspections and cleaning of the stormwater system to the Department of Public Services, care of city engineer, by October 31st of every year, and is to retain a copy for themselves. The driveway entrance shall be graded to minimize stormwater from leaving the site and entering Prospect Street. The developer's fire protection engineer shall determine the size of the fire protection lines based upon a hydrant flow test. 4 more. The proposed 8-inch water main, associated services, and hydrants are private infrastructure and are to be maintained by the property owner. The applicant's project is expected to increase their daily sewer loading by 7,040 gallons. The applicant will be required to remove 200% of these additional flows through a monetary payment of $70,400 deposited into the city's I&I removal fund. All sewer mains and associated manholes shall be tested for water tightness in the presence of this Department of Public Services. A copy of the presence and vacuum testing shall be provided to this Department of Public Services within 72 hours of conducting said tests. Any water and/or sewer laterals that will no longer be in service shall be cut and capped at their respective mains. Next condition. The condo association shall maintain the swale, landscaping, including arborvitae, and fence over time and replace it as needed, referring to the motion by the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'll read those conditions to be clear. The applicant is to erect 7 feet gray vinyl fence along the northerly boundary of the property, 5 to 7 feet from the existing stone wall. Applicant is to plant 5-foot abrevieties on the neighbor's side of the fence to help with privacy. The applicant must gain approval from the Planning Board, City Council, and Conservation. 2 of the 3 have been done. The 5th condition is that the 6 units will remain affordable in perpetuity or as long as the City of Peabody has an affordable housing program. The 7th condition is that the applicant shall post a bond acceptable to the Department of Public Services in the amount of $75,000 to ensure that site work is completed prior to issuing the last 2 occupancy permits. The next condition is that the applicant will install and approve the sidewalk on Prospect Street past the cemetery and connecting to Emery Street. The last condition is that the applicant shall comply with all provisions of Section 6.16 of the Peabody zoning ordinance entitled Residential Overlay District. Unless there are any corrections, so moved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Daigle. You had mentioned something about trash, I thought. Was that something to be conditioned?
I believe it's in the plan somewhere, so I wasn't going to put that on the special permit condition unless you'd like me to.
I mean, if it's on the plan, that means they could move it in the future if it's not conditioned. So if it's in a place where we want it to be long-term, it probably should be a condition.
I'd like to add one more condition, that the trash being removed on a weekly basis by a private trash company.
Thank you, Councilor. You heard the motion from Councilor Daigle. Any discussion? Councilor McGinn.
One last thing, and thank you for your indulgence, Councilor Daigle. I was a little confused by the fire department's input because they provided an input and then they gave us a second late communication saying they had no comment, but there was a request in there that there be a radius maintained for the fire truck access. Is that not needed as a condition at this point?
I was equally confused. I talked to Captain Dowling today, and he is okay with not having that as a condition, and he has no objections. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Councilor Daigle. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Councilor McGinn. We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you very much. Best of luck. Okay. Moving on to item 4C, we have a late communication. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. We received a communication requesting a continuance to April 14th under suspension of the rules. Move to receive late communication 4 and continue the hearing to April 14th.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. First, all in favor, any opposed to receiving the late communication? And then we have a motion to continue. Councilor Peach, do we want to, I know you're in constant contact with them, but I think this is like the 6th continuance. Maybe we also include in that motion to continue that if they don't come to that they have the option to withdraw and they can withdraw their application without prejudice, and then they'd have to re-advertise. When the longer you continue something like this, sometimes it loses the effect of the abutter and advertising. So if they come to the next hearing, no big, it's not an issue, but I know you're in constant contact with them, but.
Yeah, Mr. President, I didn't know if that needs to be a separate motion from the continuance, but.
We'll do it all as one.
Yeah, wrap it all in. If we could communicate with the applicant, they can withdraw without prejudice.
Very good. You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Okay, moving on to reports of committee. Legal Affairs Subcommittee. Chairman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. The City Council Legal Affairs Committee met earlier this evening, attending the meeting were committee members McGinn, Peach, Rossignol, and Turco. We were also joined by fellow councilors Gould, Manning Martin, Welton, Council President Melville, Gamache, and Daigle. We had 2 items on the agenda. The first item was the Boulderwood Division and the Water Tower Agreement. City Solicitor Don Kahn appeared before the committee regarding the Boulderwood Division, and the subdivision was completed and released to the city. The Peabody Planning Board made a motion in October of 2021 which recognized the water tower, and the water tower agreement has been fulfilled by the developer, and the city should take possession of the water tower. So as part of that, we needed to actually execute, we now have to execute, receive and accept the debt, the deed for the water tower tank so that we can take possession of it and the subdivision is done. So a motion was made by Councilor Turco to have the city take ownership of the water tower parcel from developer Michael Salamini. The committee voted 5-0 in favor to approve the motion. I now bring this motion to the full council this evening. Move to authorize the city to accept and receive the deed for water tank Lot A, located in the Boulderwood subdivision, from Michael D. Salamini, trustee of MJ-2 Realty Trust. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. You heard the motion from Councilor O'Neill. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. The second agenda item concerned the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism. Mayor Betancourt came before the committee earlier this evening to discuss the increasing anti-Semitism acts in our region and in our own city. He wanted our city to take all possible steps to combat this anti-Semitism and all forms of hate wherever it's found. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance created a legally non-binding definition of anti-Semitism as a crucial step in addressing the rise in anti-Semitism across the globe. I'll briefly read the working definition. Quote, anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. The Baker administration recently announced its endorsement of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition. Many Massachusetts cities and towns are also now adding their voices to end anti-Semitism. Mayor Betancourt had requested the Peabody City Council to lend its voice also and support the effort to fight anti-Semitism. Councilor Rossignol made a motion to have the City Council endorse the IHRA updated working definition of anti-Semitism. The Legal Affairs Committee voted 5-0 in favor to approve the motion. I now bring this motion for the full council's consideration. Move that the Peabody City Council endorse the updated definition of anti-Semitism adopted by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor. And any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton. O'Neill. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report of committee.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McGinn for a report of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee of the Peabody City Council met earlier this evening. Present for the committee with Councilors Gamache, Gould, Manning, Martin, Turco, and myself as chair. All other councilors were present. We had several items on the agenda. The first was a statement of interest for the South Memorial School. Presenting that to the committee was the mayor, who indicated this is the oldest school in the city and is in need of a roof repair. There is a submission to the MSBA for the accelerated repair program for this roof. And if successful, it's anticipated the reimbursement would be in the range of approximately 60%. Present also in support of this submission were school committee members Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn and John Swanson, and we thank them for being there and continuing to stay with us this evening throughout the process. There was a motion then made by Councilor Turco, which I will now bring for consideration to the full council. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 24th prior to the closing date of the City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter and bylaws and ordinances, have voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the Statement of Interest SOI form dated March 25th, 2022 for the South Elementary School located at 16 Maple Street Extension, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is the Accelerated Repair Program for repair and/or replacement of roofs. The specific objective of this statement of interest is to partner with the MSBA for the replacement of the failing roof on the entire facility of the South Elementary School as articulated in the South Elementary School SOI. And the City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city, town, regional school district to file an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. That motion by Councilor Turco passed in the Finance Committee by a vote of 5-0, and I would now bring that for consideration of the full council. Mr. President, so moved.
Thank you, Councilman McGinn. You heard the motion from Councilman McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach. Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next item on the agenda was actually two statements of interest for the Center Elementary School and the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. Again, this was presented by the mayor, and this is essentially the fourth year in a row we have put forward the same statements of interest to the MSBA for consideration. So in that, while this is potentially a significant endeavor for these two schools, much of the questions, many of the questions have been asked and answered in prior years as these were submitted previously. There were some questions by Councilors Rossignol, Welton, and Daigle, which were all addressed by the mayor. And the following motion was made by Councilor Gould. Which was resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 24th, 2022, prior to the SOI submission closing date. The City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 2022 for the Center School located at 18 Irving Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories which an application may be submitted by the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is priority 7, replacement and renovation of an additional obsolete. Strike that. The MSBA priority selected number 7, replacement and renovation of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with the state and approved local requirements. The specific objective of this SOI is to partner with the MSBA in a feasibility study for the replacement of the center school. The educational deficits of the center school are articulated in the center school SOI and include the need for a gym space, cafeteria space, food service, server, and kitchen space, much needed upgrades to classrooms, meeting rooms, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems. And the City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the the acceptance or approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city to file an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. That motion passed the Finance Committee by a vote of 5-0 and unanimously, and I now bring that for consideration to the full council. Mr. President, so moved.
Thank you, Councilman McGinn. You heard the motion from Councilman McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Again.
Thank you, Mr. President. The mayor wanted to point out that although we have submitted this statement of interest to the MSBA previously for the high school, there was an additional category identified in this particular submission, which is the priority number 3, which is prevention of loss of accreditation by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. Apparently, the high school is in some form of a warning status that gets evaluated periodically, and it's thought that perhaps by adding this might move it up the priority list. Motion was made by Councilor Manning Martin as follows. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 24th, 2022, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority a statement of interest form dated April 2022 for the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School located at 485 Lowell Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. They must be a priority. Categories selected are MSB priority number 3, prevention of loss of accreditation. The NEASC, New England Association of Schools and Colleges Commission on Public Schools, voted to place the PVMHS on warning status for the standard of instruction and community resources for learning. The NEASC accreditation report of March 2020 cited the lack of facilities sufficient to fully implement the curriculum, including co-curricular programs and other learning opportunities programs, and service inadequate HVAC and electrical systems, insufficient bathrooms, broken or non-functioning lighting in classrooms, hallways, and parking lots, unsafe water quality, limited handicap access, inadequate security, including insufficient passage locking systems, leaking roofs, and out-of-date classrooms, studios, and labs. MSBA priority number 7, replacement and renovation of or addition to an obsolete building in order to provide for the full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. The educational deficits of the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School are articulated in the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School SOI and include the need for a much-needed upgrade to classrooms, science areas, career vocational technical educational classrooms, meeting rooms, counseling offices, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC systems, energy efficiencies, building envelope, disability access, and security considerations. And City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city to file an application for the funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Mr. President, that motion passed the Finance Committee unanimously, and now bring it for consideration of the full council. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next item on the agenda was a transfer request for CPC Community Preservation Administration, an amount of $3,500. This was presented by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras. There was a subsequent motion made by Councilor Gould as follows. Move to approve the transfer request from account number 270-000-33011, an amount of $3,500, Community Preservation Act unreserved fund balance, to account number 270-1811-53-125, Community Preservation Act administration, amount of $3,500. That motion passed the committee unanimously, Mr. President. Now bring it for consideration of the full council. So moved.
Heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton. O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next item on the agenda was transfer of funds, cable expense, in an amount of $197,785.87. It was presented to us by the Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras. And the following motion was subsequently made by Councilor Gould. Move to approve transfer requests from Receipts Reserve Cable Fund, account number 270-000-33017, an amount of $197,785.87 to Cable Fund expense, account number 270-000-5307, an amount of $197,785.87. That motion passed the committee unanimously, Mr. President. Now bring it for consideration of the full council. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last item on the agenda was transfer of funds, cable fund expense, in two amounts. This was presented to us by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras. The amounts that were on the agenda were slightly adjusted based on a minor math error, which was in both cases under $1,000. It was explained by Mr. Gingras to the committee, and subsequently there was a motion by Councilor Gould as follows. Move to approve transfer request. Receipts Reserve Cable Fund, account number 270-000-33017, in the following two amounts: $21,207.55 and $4,579.59. To Cable Fund expense, account number 270-000-5307, in two amounts: $21,207.55 and $4,579.59. Mr. President, that motion passed the Finance Committee unanimously, and now bring it to consideration for the full council. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. That completes the report of committee.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Gould.
No motions, Mr. President.
Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve item 9E, all papers being in order. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to have the DPW fix a berm at the corner of 18 Stockton, at the corner of Stockton and Rutledge. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion. It's been more than 9 years since the school committee has had a raise, so I would like to put in a recommendation to the Finance Committee to give the school committee a 3% raise. So moved.
You want to refer that to Finance Committee?
Correct.
Okay. You heard the motion from Councilor Rozignol. All in favor? Any opposed? To the vote. Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you. Last motion, motion to put into legal affairs an ordinance change regarding limitation of sign size for lawns, and speaking with Don Kahn, that is allowable, but with certain parameters, so moved.
So we'll stay with signs, and then we can hash out in the legal affairs. Okay, you heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote, Council Rosenthal?
No further motions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rosenthal. Councilor Manning Martin.
No motions, Mr. President.
Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, I move to receive item 9C, entertainment license, receive and approve all papers being in order, entertainment license renewal for 2022 for the Century House of Peabody, 235 Andover Street, Eatery, 58 Marketplace, 58 Pulaski Street. Do you want me to just do them all? Do all of them. Champions Pub, 114 Foster Street, Green Tea, 126 Newbury Street, Stonewood Tavern, 139 Linfield Street. So moved.
You heard the motion. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, Stonewood's no longer open. I don't think we should be giving them a entertainment license for a place that's shuttered.
Councilor Turco.
I'll defer to Councilor Walton.
Councilor Welton.
Councilor Turco, I understand currently they're not open. However, it appears that they are up to date with their taxes and everything is still filed correctly. So I'm open to having further discussion about it, but I don't know that we have grounds to not renew their entertainment license.
Why don't we ask the clerk? They filed with the clerk.
So we sent out a renewal notice, and I got a response that they are looking to sell their property, and they'll be transferring the entertainment license. But it was my view that if they didn't have a current entertainment license, they can't transfer their entertainment license. So I asked them to renew it so that they can transfer it appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Turco.
Yeah, thank you. I did speak to Mr. Palumbo, the owner of the property, probably about 2 weeks ago and sometime before that, and he has maintained to me that his taxes are up to date. He would like to keep all his permits up to date in the event that he can sell, and if he does not sell, he would still look at reopening. So he would like to have everything active. So with that, thank you.
Councilor Manning Martin, then Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad that you pointed this out, Councilor Gamache. I'm not comfortable with transferring a license for a known entity to an unknown entity. I'd rather have the new owners, whomever they are, whenever they come before the council to tell us what they're going to do before we approve whatever entertainment they're going to have there. That we've had issues at that area, given that it's in a residential, that I think that we should give it its due diligence with a new owner, whomever that may be, who comes before us. Thank you.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Peach, since you have put all of these into one lump sum as far as a renewal, would you amend your motion to include all of them except for Stonewood, and we can vote on that one individually?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's handle those four. All in favor? Any opposed to vote for those four? Councilor Turco.
Just for clarification, to Council Manning Martin, this isn't a transfer at all. This is, he paid his entertainment license fee and would like to keep it in his name as it is currently, so he's not transferring it to anybody. So that's all. I just wanted to let you know that.
Councilor Gamache, and then I have some thoughts on this.
I think what we're doing is we're allowing a person to try to keep his license so that he could, as Councilor Manning Martin says, transfer it to the new business in case they sell it. To me, we're getting into a hornet's nest here if we allow us to approve this license when we know that this building has been shuttered. And if he has to come back for another license when he opens, if he opens again, so be it. But to give a person a license that doesn't have a business that's open, I think we're opening ourselves up to a big can of beans here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make it quick and just a question through you, Mr. Chair, to Clerk Danforth. If the stone were to sell with a special permit, couldn't we then require them to come back before us for a transfer of special permit for a new owner?
Right, they're under a special permit, they would have to come back for a transfer.
Transfer. So for myself, and I'm open to any other suggestions from the councilors, but for myself, I feel like that satisfies that if we were to move forward with renewing the special permit, knowing that if they do sell, the new entity is going to have to come back before us for a transfer of special permit at that point anyway.
So just for a point of clarification, I'm very sympathetic to the idea that they're closed, but if they were to transfer, so what we're saying is, we'll put up to a vote for the council, we'll just put up to a vote, but if he wishes to open, he can have his entertainment license because he's currently licensed through, he has other licenses as well. If he was to sell and try to transfer those licenses, he's going to have to come before for a special permit. He's going to have to transfer his alcohol license. He's going to have to transfer his entertainment license. There's going to be a bigger process here than just coming through. So we'll just put it to a vote. Yeah, Councilor Gamache.
If I may, the special permit is what he's going to transfer. And in that special permit is the license, is the entertainment license. So it's not like they're coming for a new license. If there's a new owner, they have to come in. Don't allow them the special permit. Allow them the special permit transfer, but don't allow them the license. Let us approve that license that's going to come in because we don't know what the entity is going to be. You're transferring a special permit with the license. So what you're talking about is we have no rights to amend that license if it's transferred in the special permit process. It goes with the special permit unless we tell them you have to change your entertainment license. As you see, I'm against this anyway, so I'll open the floor.
All right, let's do a roll call vote on this. Councilor Welton, do it quick.
And I don't mean to belabor the point. I just one last question for clarification. The initial conditions on that special permit, if we renew the special permit, remain, and if it were to come back for a transfer, that special permit would include all those conditions that were voted on previously, correct?
I mean, unless they're, according to the clerk, can you just?
Well, they could come back and amend those, like the applicant in your ward came back for an amendment, but you changed some of the conditions 2 weeks ago.
Understood. Thanks.
Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know that the matter's before us. I just want to say just clearly that I understand some concerns, but the matter before us is an entertainment license renewal. None of these businesses that are also in this group, we don't know their future plans or whatever. So I want to be very careful as a council that we're guessing what they're going to do or dictating what they're going to do. We're renewing their entertainment license. Everything's up to date. I see no reason why we don't approve it. So I'm ready for a vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. We do need a motion to renew the actual permit. All right, Councilor Turco with the motion to renew the Stonewood Tavern, 139 Linfield Street, entertainment license for 2022. Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
No.
Rossignol.
No.
Manning Martin.
Negative.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
No.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-4.
Councilor Peach, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions, but I wanted to make a comment. I held a neighborhood meeting. Well, I didn't hold a neighborhood meeting. A developer held a neighborhood meeting that, with the help of some residents, was able to get a very good turnout for the 40B application that will soon go to the zoning board for 39 Wallace Street. I just wanted to let the public know, if you have not seen any post or received anything to your door and you're in that neighborhood of Wallace Street, and you have any questions about the plans, please reach out to me. Happy to discuss. The neighborhood meeting went very well. Neighbors are giving a lot of feedback to the developers, and like we saw today, with the special permit application, while this will not come before the city council, I want to make sure that the neighbors are well heard, and the developer understands where we're coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of rules, move to receive items 8B, 8G, 8H, and HJ, or excuse me, HI. 8I, so moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. All in favor, any opposed, to vote. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of rules, move to receive item 9D. Approve all papers being in order. And on item 9D, I did have an opportunity to speak to the party that has requested the block party request and did not have any complaints from abutting neighbors either. So move to receive and approve all papers being in order. Item 9D, so moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Welton. All in favor, any opposed, to vote. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. And lastly, just a point of information, as we discussed earlier in the meeting, Cargo Ventures, Corwin LLC, was initially supposed to be before us this evening for a special permit hearing that was continued to our April 14th meeting. So if there's anyone listening who wants to be here to speak in favor of or in opposition to, please note that that will be April 14th. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8C and set up a special permit hearing.
The motion from Councilor O'Neill. All in favor, any opposed, to vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to accept and refer item 8F and refer that to the ad hoc committee on aggregate industries.
Heard the motion. All in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last item is last week, the last meeting, I made a motion to receive and accept the 2021 Aggregate Industries annual report and referred that to committee of the whole. That should have been referred to the ad hoc Aggregate Industries committee. So I just want to see if you could make that motion to kick it over to Aggregate Industries.
I agree, Council. We noticed that after when we were doing the minutes that really should have gone to the ad hoc committee. So I would entertain that motion to move that to the ad hoc committee for aggregate industries. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. And lastly, just wanted to request the department heads to make sure that they have their responses to the 2021 Aggregate Industries Annual Report to the city clerk by April 21st, because we're trying to schedule the city council's review of that annual report on the 28th. Thank you.
Make that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sorry, so moved.
No problem. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn. Oh, Councilor O'Neill, you still got something else?
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of rules, move to receive and refer item 7A to the Legal Affairs Committee. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor O'Neill. All in favor? Any opposed to vote? Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8D. So moved.
Heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed to vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and adopt as advertised item 10A. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. We're going to do a roll call vote. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach. Welton. O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and adopt as advertised item 10B. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
No.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton. O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
No.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-2.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 10C and adopt as advertised. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
No.
Peach.
Yes.
Welton. O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
No.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-2.
Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Gamache.
Yes, thank you. Under suspension of the rules, I don't know if 8A has been received yet. Item 8A, move to receive.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote? Councilor Gamache.
9A, taxi limousine driver's license, Dennis Fry, license number 8, move approval, all papers being in order.
All in favor? Any opposed? To vote? Councilor Gamache.
Class 2 motor vehicle, I'm sorry, under suspension of the rules, 9B, Class 2 motor vehicle license renewal for 2022, JRM Auto Sales, 80 Newbury Street, move approval, all papers being in order.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote? Councilor Gamache.
No further motions, thank you.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to receive item 8L and refer to ICD.
Yeah, I was looking at that as well, Councilor. I'm not sure. Is that have we traditionally done that in ICD, or is that is it an ordinance? Would that be legal, or Council? It's the trash ordinance. It would be an update to the trash ordinance. Or it could be human services. I was actually going to leave it up to the council and anybody's thoughts. Councilor McGinn.
We have had this issue in industrial and community development previously.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. So, thank you, Councilor Turco. So you heard the motion from Councilor Turco. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote?
On that motion, that trash ordinance has been a discussion for, I believe, 3 years now. And Sharon Cameron's put a lot of time and work, and it deserves some discussion, some thorough discussion. It's going to be a contentious issue. Anytime you talk about trash, it becomes contentious, but the rat problem in the city is not going away. It actually seems to be getting much worse, and this is just a piece of something that we can do to address that, and Sharon has been very vocal about that, and I just, obviously I'll wait for the discussion, but I want everybody to be open-minded to this and be aware that when we initially met with Sharon 3 years ago, we had some vendors in that had done this, and they said that almost every city that has done it, it was contentious. The residents were angry at the beginning, but once the implementations were made and the residents were very happy with the way things turned out as far as the cleanliness of the neighborhoods and the rodent populations dissipating a bit. So just, I just like everybody to keep an open mind, and hopefully we can have a good discussion about this. I do have one further motion, a motion to ask the mayor and community development if they would conduct a public meeting regarding the approval, the recent approval by the planning board of the Amazon facility at 8 Centennial Drive. I realize that that project may not take place for a few years, but the residents have not been involved in the process at all because it was not a special permit hearing. It was a by right. A lot of residents have questions. I would like to see if the mayor would hold a public meeting within City Hall, invite abutting neighbors in Wards 1, I believe on the other side of Centennial, it's Wards 4 and 5, to that meeting, as well as the affected groups involved according to the resolution that this council passed about a year ago, inclusive of some of the Centennial Park businesses that also may be affected by it. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Turco. Any discussion? Councilor Welton.
On the motion, if Councilor Turco will allow, I'd like to make it a co-motion.
So it's a co-motion. You heard the motion, co-motion between Councilor Turco and Councilor Welton. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed to vote? Councilor Turco.
No further motions. Thank you.
Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think you might need some help cleaning up some late communications.
Yep, we have 4 late communications that we have to receive.
Number under suspension of the rules, move to receive late communications. Let's see how I do. 2, 3, 5, 7, and 8.
Yeah, we have to forward. So late communication 2 and late communication 5 and 8 would be referred to the Kerwin Street special permit hearing. And then we would just receive late communication 3.
So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Daigle. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Are we missing it? Is there? Councilor Daigle.
No further motions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of reminders. April 7th is Student Government Day. Planning on doing a committee of the whole regarding the charter. We're going to look at Articles 1 and 2, April 12th. April 12th. So we'll schedule like an hour and 15 minutes on April 12th. That's a Tuesday. And then on April 14th, we have our next meeting. So it's kind of a funny month with, we have multiple. Also, I'd entertain a motion to request that anytime we get a housing, until there's a process developed, that anytime we get a special permit regarding housing, that the city solicitor, as quickly as possible, make a decision or give us advice on what the threshold for approval is. I really think it's absolutely imperative that the applicant and the council know as soon as possible, like once the council receives that particular packet, what the threshold of approval is. I think it's completely, I don't think it's fair to the applicant if they don't know that. So, any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. And that is it for this evening. So I entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. We're adjourned.